Using string resources. Let's create an Android project for using string resources. First, let's create the project. So we go File, New, Project, Android Application Project, and hit Next. The application name, let's call it Resources Project 4. And I don't notice I have no spaces in the name because that can cause you problems down the road. And my package name will be com.handling.resourcesproject. Yours should be whatever works for you. My build SDK is Android 2.2 or Froyo, and I'll hit Next. This is where I would change the icon. Just for giggles, I'll change my icon to this. And the color. To this. Blank activity, and I'll leave the activity names the same and hit Finish. Okay, so I have my new project. Let me go ahead and delete the text view that's already there and pull a button and 2 text views onto my screen. And 2 edit fields onto my screen. Now, if I go to my activity main, I see that for each one of my objects that I dragged onto the screen, or at least for the button and the 2 text views, it created an attribute called Android Text for each one. But each one of these also has a warning on it, and it's that we hard-coded the string button, and we should use an @string resource. So let's see how we would do that. First, let me save this, and we want to go into the res folder, values, strings. And here we have a list of strings that can be used and reused throughout the program. Now we can manipulate it directly in the XML if we want, or we can use this, this handy interface. So let's go ahead and create 2 strings, one called button text and one called display text. So we're going to have a string called button text. Let's say click me. And another string called, well, I don't want to call it text. Let's call it text view. Text. Let's say the values for those are click it now. And then we'll have another one called edit text. Text. Sorry. We'll have another one called edit text. Text. I said click it already. Alright. Now that we have our strings, button text, text view text, and edit text text, what we can tell the Android text attribute is that instead of putting the text directly in here, what we'll do is we'll refer to the strings that we created. Wait, let's save that. I could tell that it was unsaved because it had an asterisk next to the name. So now that it's been saved, let's change the reference so it says @string/button text. And this one should be called @string/text view text. Now remember, it's Java is case sensitive, so I have to make sure to get the capitalization right. And this one will also be @string text view text. And finally, my edit text, they don't have an Android text attribute, so I'm going to add one. And that's because the default for a text box is not to have any text in it. But if I wanted it to default to having a text in it, having text in it to begin with, it'll be @string/edit text text. And then once we hit save, we can see that all of those errors went away. Now, if I were to run this program, in fact, I don't even need to run it. I can just look at it as a graphical view. Notice instead of saying @string, the name of the string, it shows the actual text that those string resources referred to. And I can even go a step farther. What I want to do is click this button and have it pop up a message down here to say the button has been clicked. But again, I don't want to hard code the strings into my application. I want to use the strings from here. So let me go ahead and create a new string resource called display message, and the value of it is button was clicked, because this is the message I'm going to show once the button was clicked. And we're going to save it. Now let's go into our code, and our code would be found in the source folder inside, for me, com.henley/resources project 4, and then inside the main activity.java. So once you're in there, what you're going to do is, what is the first thing we do? If we want to attach something to the button, we have to create a variable for the button. So that would be button equals button find view by ID r.id dot button1. This creates a variable in our application that ties to the button on the layout. Now we have an error here, so we're going to import the button library, and we have a warning saying that the button variable has never been used, but we're going to get to that. And let's create an on-click handler. And see, by putting it here, I'm putting it before the end of the program, but I'm making sure it's not inside this other routine. And it's private on-click listener. I'm going to call mine my listener equals new on-click listener open close parentheses open close curly brackets semicolon. Now, the reason I did that is to make sure that my brackets matched up, and so you'll see how it works in a second. First, I want to import the proper library for the on-click listener, which is the one in android.view.view, as opposed to the one for the dialog interface. So we can see that that's been added. Now I want to, if I hover over here, it says add unimplemented methods. So it builds out the rest of what it's supposed to look like for me. And I don't have to worry about making sure that my brackets match or that my semicolon's in the right place or anything like that. It takes care of it for me. Okay, now what I'm going to put in here is when the button is clicked, I want basically everything on the screen to say the button was clicked, except for the actual button. So first, let me declare a string called s and make it equal to getString r.string dot display message text. Okay, and so now this variable s has the value of display message text, which we had set to button was clicked, and so I can use it everywhere. So first, let me create some variables tied to my text views. So to do that, it's text view, and so the first one, I'll call it my text, is equal to text view find view by ID r.id text view1, and we need to import the library for that. Next, I'm going to do them both at the same time. So text view my text2 is equal to text view find view by ID r.id text view2. Okay, so I now have two variables, and I'm going to set them both. So it's my text dot set text s. And so I'm setting the text of the object tied to my text to S, which is my display message text. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the second one. So my text2 dot set text S. So there, I've set both of my text views to button was clicked. And let's also set my edit text boxes to that as well. So it's edit text, my text box equals edit text and view by ID r.id edit text 1. Okay, we need to import the missing libraries. Edit text. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to call this one my text box 2. Just for grabbing edit text 2. And then my text box dot set text. S. And my text box 2 dot set text S. And so now we have a routine that will change everything on the screen to what our display message is. And it almost seems like we're done, except we still have two warnings. It's saying here that the listener has not been used, and it's saying here that the button has not been used. And the way that we take care of that is we tell the button that we're setting your on-click listener, capital C, to my listener and everything's good. So we'll save this. Looks like we have no errors, and we'll run our application as an Android application. The Android virtual device loads. Some people get a little freaked out by the fact that the screen appears like this and just has Android in small letters. Nothing's wrong. It's just booting it up for the first time this session, which is why you don't want to close your Android virtual device in between debugs. You just run it and keep running it and leave this open. It'll reload the new version of the program whenever you do that, so you don't have to wait through all of it. Here we go. So click it, click me, click it now, click it now. I said click it already. And when I press this button, notice it updated all the text. Now I can also use this in a toast message. So I can say toast make text. The context is the name of my activity. So my activity is called main activity. Main activity.this. My text is called S. And the duration is toast length long dot show. Okay, so we have our changes in. Let's go ahead and run this new version. And so now it's changed all these other things, and it's popped up a toast message.